I'm David Cameo, and we are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. And today we're going to be talking about the 12th episode in the 7th season of Fear the Walking Dead titled Sonny Boy. Before we continue, I wanted to tell you that I just received all our stickers last night for the camp, because of course we're going to be there. We have a very large table. We're going to be buddying with our friend Linda Peck Athens, Survivors tier member Linda Peck Athens, who will be selling her art at the camp. And I'm going to try to convince the Beauty and the Beasts crew to also maybe buddy up with us, maybe save some costs a little bit. So the camp, yes. So the stickers have been bought, received them yesterday. Haven't actually opened up the package, but I'm assuming they look good because we use the same stickers at Fandemic. Also, I just received a package today, and it contains special edition t-shirts that we printed out, large and extra large, that we're going to be giving to the camp to give away for charity. And I have to tell you, they look really good. Like, good enough to want to buy in a charity auction. So keep your eye out for those charity events at the camp. I will definitely have to be there because I want to see how well those t-shirts do, because I think they look mighty fine. I would show you right now. Oh, you want me to show you right now? Oh, well, yeah, they're right here. Well, why not? We're going to kill some time so that we get more people here, so that you can watch together. But as soon as I'm done showing you, we're going to start the episode. But I'm only going to show you two of these. The third one you've already seen in the Instagram feed. It's me modeling off one of Sticker Mule's, the black background, white text, "We Are Squawking Dead," the original one. So you've seen that. That looks awesome. But this is our modern "We Are Squawking Dead" in white background. And I think it's... Well, see, I've got this blue light on right now, but you can't really see it. Oh no, that's terrible. You know what? I guess you're going to have to go to the camp to actually check it out. But believe you me when I say... Oh, look, Karen's here, and she's the one who... Karen Tanking is the one who asked me to make these t-shirts for the giveaway. And she's here right now, and she gets to see a little bit of the fruits of her labors. But I really want to show you the graphic for our Season 11 coverage. The Season 11 of The Walking Dead. The graphic is made by Walker Wynn. We commissioned her for this. And check that out. The orange is perfect. And these will be in large and extra large to be given away at the camp. Yeah. And I cannot wait for you guys to see this in person. It is durable. It is solid. And before we continue with the episode, I do want to talk about our sponsor, our one and only sponsor, Phineas Coffee. Phineas Coffee is top tier, high grade, delicious coffee that we drink here at home at the Cameo House. And you can get 10% off your coffee order when you head over to our referral link, obviously, below in every video. But also, if you just head to phineascoffee.com and use Squawking Dead as a referral code, you will get 10% off your next order of Phineas Coffee. You will not regret it. And if you do, I will just buy it back from you. And every bag of coffee that you buy means another $1 for Squawking Dead. Oh, and speaking of support, hey, if you, first of all, obviously the pitch is going to be in the show, but please follow us at ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. We announced recently that we had set a new goal, but unfortunately, that goal has been achieved already. Thanks to Survivors tier member Real Ryan GM. The goal was actually, I can't blame you if you missed it, to buy a mic for Sharondy. I've been thinking about this a very long time, and I figured I would crowdsource it because she deserves to sound as good as every one of us on the show. and she has a voice with presence that deserves to be heard correctly. And so we'll be buying her mic very, very soon, along with some other things that might help her out a little bit. We'll see about that. Time is kind of a luxury that I don't have very much of. I'm on 0 hours of sleep right now, so. But I'm very happy to have that happened. Thanks mostly to Ryan, and listen, of course, all of you, because when we set the goal, your membership dollars went towards that goal as well. Now listen, you can buy a coffee and get 30 days of supported back content, which includes the ability to join us in our recording sessions, the unedited episode recordings, and a whole bunch of free things that you get as soon as you buy us a coffee and or join a membership tier, which for as little as $1. And when you do that, it sends us a message. It really isn't about the money. We're not making any money, but it does help support the show, does keep us afloat. It sends us really a signal that we're on the right track. You're interested in this train keeping on moving. You know what I meant. And that you want more of this. And Ryan, whenever you do this crazy thing that you do, it sends the right message, and it really keeps me personally going. So without further ado, I would like to chat with all of you in the chat right now, and whoever is here watching on replay, please comment on this video. I'd like to talk to you. I want to know what you think about this episode. Remember to like, remember to subscribe, and enable all notifications on not just YouTube or Facebook, but all social media. We don't post that much, but I don't want you to miss any of these updates. I want you to keep this podcast going. Thank you, as always. I'm so glad you're here on a Friday night. I see you. Oh, yes, Sharondy. I'm going to post about the art contest first, and then I'm going to mention it. But if you head over to Sharondy, aka Blazy Gardner's social channels, she is running a very cool contest for artists to depict a particular scene in Fear the Walking Dead. Yes, it is June, just after she shot Ginny in season 6. And here's the thing. It is a very cool contest. It is a flex on your creative juices, and there is going to be a really cool prize. If you know an artist, send them over to Blazy Gardner's. Probably Instagram is the best one. Scroll her chat. I will be posting this contest soon as well. So soon enough, I will be posting about that. So if you have enabled post notifications, you will see that soon on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So keep an eye on that. But if you don't want to wait, head over to Blazy Gardner's social channels now. Without further ado, I'd like to present this episode and talk to you in the chat. So here it is.
We're dealing with somebody else now.
I'm David Cameo, and we are Squawking Dead, a podcast polarizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. And today we're here talking about the 12th episode of Season 7 of Fear the Walking Dead, titled Sonny Boy. I'm here with Cosmom's Aaron I, Rachel Burt, and Sharon, aka Blazy Gardner, and Survivor's tier member Bridget, ex-Prophecy Girl on Twitter, and Ain't My First Rodeo on Instagram.
Ooh, we got both today.
It's that kind of day. So in terms of feelings about this episode, I feel like we have to talk to Sharon because it's been a while. First of all, hi, how are you doing? Hey, what's up? How you feeling?
I'm feeling better today. Thank you, guys. I've been feeling a little under the weather for the past month, and I'm feeling better today. So as far as the episode goes, man, this is my favorite of the season so far. And not just because it was June heavy, but because it was actually something happened. And it was shocking. Something we also haven't had for a while. Not really. So I would say overall, I really, really loved it. And I loved Badass June, of course.
Yeah, it's not because of June. Okay, so to focus on the something happening is something that we've been saying for the last several episodes is like, it feels like we're not hitting the conflict. We're not engaging in the conflict. We've been slowly building to it, not fast enough.
So I liked the episode for sure. I thought it was a good one. We are obviously continuing our streak of at least one character dying, whether we know them already or are just meeting them, dying every single episode. So that's been a real roller coaster ride. Because now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, who's going to die in the next episode? Because, like, someone's going to die. I was a little sad to see Senior go, but I felt like it was a good wrap to his story arc. So I'm just going to leave it there for now.
I think it was a good wrap to his story as well. I mean, I was bummed, but I mean, I think it was kind of a big shock that he came back at all. So the fact that we even had John Dorie Sr., I think was cool, even if it was just for a short period of time. I'm more pissed that they killed Howard. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. And not just because I was liking Howard as a bad guy. I thought he was doing a really great job as a bad guy. But I feel like there's a lot of potential that they literally just threw off a building. Like this character, this character had a lot going on for him. And I think he could have done amazingly awful things down the road. Who knows? I expect there to be amazingly horrible things to come our way anyway, but I just really thought Howard was going to be a part of that. And now I look at this character like, why were you even here? Like, what purpose did you really serve?
With kind of like something what Howard said earlier. It was not earlier. I'm like thinking, just watched the episode earlier. He said, no, Howard says in this episode, then it would have all been for nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We felt similarly to Paul as well, though, in a sense.
Yes,
I know with
did.
Howard,
Yeah.
there was a lot more build up.
We had him for a little bit longer. Right. So the potential for him to continue with the storyline. And I mean, I never thought his family was going to show up or anything like that. That was a delusion. And maybe he was telling himself this is why he was doing these things. He was trying to justify these horrible things he was doing on Strand's behalf for, in his mind, what was a greater good. But
You know what that reminds me of? I just want to interject because I probably, that if I don't, this thought will fly away.
Oh, I know that feeling.
This sounds a lot like John Dorie Jr. when it came to Laura. When he was trying to find Laura in season 4, that's what he had to tell himself. I can't think that way. And I felt like now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, wow, how is that different from Dorie Jr.?
Poignant. Yep. So yeah, at the end of it all, I was mostly pissed about losing Howard.
On my end, I think I'm not as much pissed at all. I think this show did actually what I was hoping they would, but not thinking they would actually, is made it so that we could be okay with Howard being gone, essentially, in my opinion, because of all the nuances in terms of, think about it this way. He did all this in the hopes that he would find his family and provide them with something that he could not pre-apocalypse, whether that was ill-gotten or otherwise. You know, he was doing everything for his family. And then finding out that they have been dead for months makes it so that what John does is a little less horrible, let's say. I know it's horrible regardless on the face of it. If he did all of this for his family and his family's been dead this whole time, he probably wouldn't want to be alive anyway. So, like, in a sense, it's kind of a mercy. The writers did a really good job, in my opinion, with how they treated Howard, at least in this episode. I do have the same feelings as you, Rachel, like for all the screen time build up. You know, he's been there since the end of season 6. We had all these thoughts about him, why he does what he does. I see you, Howard. Remember that? What was that Secret Santa video? I can't remember exactly what we did for where I was Howard's Secret Santa. I think it was. Yeah, I feel like at least for the last episode they did him right. For all the screen time, they could have done more. Yeah, probably. But I feel like these last few episodes have been very brutal in terms of cutting off potential at the knees. Like, I feel like they could have done more with Arno, personally.
Kind of like Leah on The Walking Dead. Like, there's so much more they could.
Yeah, Leo is a worst case in my
and
opinion.
They just threw it away.
Yeah.
They just threw it all away for what? Yeah. And I kind of feel that way about Howard too. Why they threw it all away for what? What was the point in killing Howard?
The killing of Howard illustrates Victor's driving force. Like, what keeps this thing running? Because we had asked the question at the beginning of season 7, like, why does Victor reject all these people? The Carpenter and Arno and all these capable people. Well, he's been recruiting people who need this place, essentially. I was thinking, and we kind of verbalized this, like people that can almost not help themselves. You see people playing checkers upstairs and yoga and whatever. These people would be otherwise some maybe capable, but not people like, you would need this place. You're the people I want surrounded around me when this place becomes like the legacy, when the fog clears, the radiation fog clears, you are the people who are going to remember me. And then I'm going to send you out into the world and they'll say, oh, wasn't that Victor Strang great? So when I think about why Howard and what was all this for, it really illustrates he needs people to need this place. And not only that, Howard was the token loyalist when it comes to he needs this place more than most, or he wants it bad enough to, like, he could, like Atlas, he could lift this place over his shoulders. That's how much he loved and needs this place, like from a place of like an addict's need, you know, that kind of thing.
I think it was also to make Senior realize, because remember earlier in the episode you said, you think you can change Victor, what if Victor changes you? And he has this whole time. He has changed John Sr. as John watched people get thrown off the roof over and over and over again. And then at the end, he throws Howard off the roof, even though he knows Howard wasn't guilty of that particular crime. I mean, Howard has done shitty stuff. But the reason Howard is dead is because they needed to show John Sr. realizing that Victor had changed him, just like June said.
Absolutely, yeah.
And made him into a monster, just like Strand.
Drove him to drink.
Yeah, right. To cope, or to go back to retreat into.
Well, he was gonna die anyway. Right. I mean, he knows he was gonna die anyway, so why not?
Dorie Senior knew he was gonna die. Oh well, yeah, because of the radiation. Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. So you know, who cares? Who cares, Bridget? But what in terms of Howard though, let's take it back to Howard. Do you think that this place changed Howard though? I asked the question because I'm not really sure myself.
We didn't get to know enough about Howard. That's part of my beef. Like, I wanted to know more about this character. We didn't get a chance.
There's a far distance between Forger and throwing people off a roof and murdering children. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yes. I'm sure Victor's changed him quite a bit. Well, though, you know, I'm sure the apocalypse in general changed Howard, but Strand probably really changed. Just another parallel to Senior, because, of course, there's the forgery planting parallel, and then there's the parallel where John Sr. knows what happened to his family before he dies. He knows that John is dead, and I don't know, I guess maybe he doesn't know where his wife is, but he knows John is dead before he dies. But Howard doesn't get the luxury of knowing where his family is.
Right. Oh, that's the episode, folks. If you like what you heard. This episode really did bring me down a bit, though. Like, as much as John Dorie gets an interesting and good off, oh man, that song really got me. And not as it was sung in the show. That was sweet, in my opinion. Like, researching the lyrics and then like having to write it down and then like, what? Let me, I'm just going to say a couple words just to kind of bring you where I'm at right now. Okay. You're sent from heaven and I know your worth. You made a heaven for me here on earth. When I'm old and gray, dear, that's not happening. Promise you won't stray, dear, for I love you, Sonny boy. And the angels and this is the sad one. This is the saddest one, because of course it has to be sadder. And the angels grew lonely, took you because they were lonely. I'm lonely too, Sonny boy. Which is, kill me. I'm dead. Bury me. Yeah, see, this is the thing. See, you guys all had, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about that. I am like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I have no idea. Because there was a lot of shifting ground in this episode when it comes to where John Sr., first of all, is at. I think June is pretty resolute, at least solid character. But how we think about even Howard throughout this episode shifts like sand. Like, I don't know how I feel about him within each scene. It's hard to kind of...
And Wes.
Yeah, well, he's...
Wes, too, because he's very shady at the end. But is he playing Victor, or is he really in it?
Yeah. Let's try to keep focusing on John Dorie Sr. for a second.
Okay, I have what's probably going to be a very unpopular opinion. I'm very sad that John is gone. But dear God, please do not put June with another Dorie. Please let her have her own agency and be her own character for a few episodes without being attached to a Dorie. And you guys know I love John and June. I mean, they're the reason I'm in this fandom. I love them so much. And had they continued with John and June, I've been happy. But I feel like, oh, John, Garrett wanted to leave. John died. But didn't we have to put June with another Dorie? He had 2 episodes this season. I'm sorry he's dead. I hate it, but...
I don't remember who said it, but someone in our group chat said something about there being a surprise twin, and it'll be Dorie.
That was
Don
me.
Dorie.
That was
Don
Rachel.
Dorie.
That was so good, Rachel. I was just like, oh god, I'm just sharing you off so much. Just
And here I am.
out of the blue. Here comes Don Dorie.
Don Dorie, the evil twin of John Dorie. I was thinking when you were talking about we don't know where his mother is, and I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna
Mom
bring her.
comes back.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
gosh,
Oh my god.
Mrs. Dorie,
Yeah,
and she's
Dawn.
a nurse. And she's
That is Dawn. D-A-W-N. Dawn Dorie.
Yes.
D-A-W-N Dorie.
Dawn Dorie.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, just please let June be her own fucking character for a few episodes.
No.
Please.
I write this show anyway.
Yep.
So
I'm very sad John Sr. died, but I'm not entirely sad John Sr. died.
well, cold comfort, but like you could see that June had agency in this episode, though. Like in contrast to prior episodes, let's say,
Yeah.
right? So that was refreshing, at least.
Yeah.
And fighting John Dorie Sr. on that footing. So
My girl June
yeah.
leading the resistance.
So, like, I know Senior was going to die from the radiation. That's horrible and was going to happen anyway, but he didn't have to die like this. Why didn't he gut up? He could have survived past this anyway. I mean, I know it had to happen this way for story's sake and whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's going to work out how they want it to work out, but he could have made it past that.
I have an opinion about that, actually. Because in my...
But you have an opinion too?
I do.
Yeah, everybody does.
I have my own opinion now.
Get out of here.
So I
Just
kind
one
of
thing,
felt,
Dave? Just kidding.
I kind of felt like it was John Sr. finally doing the right thing after always doing the wrong
For the
thing.
right reason.
Yeah, exactly. Because he left
thought that
John
too.
when he was a kid, and he planted evidence when he was a police officer, and that may have been for the right reasons, but it was the wrong thing to do. He comes in to June's life after John is gone, and then he's drinking really heavily, putting them potentially at risk because of this kind of stuff. And then he gets to the tower, and then what does he do? But he starts to do the wrong thing again. And so it was just like, it was finally him being like, I know I'm gonna die, and so I'm gonna resign myself to finally, for once in my life, doing the right fucking thing for the right fucking reason, making it up essentially to his son, who he had like, see, now I'm getting like emotional, that he had never made it up to.
Hey, let me compound that a bit because I like to make people cry. In the last episode, one of the big things that I'd said near the end of it, I think, was Daniel in the last episode. There was a little bit of confusion. Why the urgency to tell Ophelia, quote unquote, why he's been such a shitbag? You know, like all the things that make him a shitbag, or according to himself, let's say. And then we were like saying, okay, well, the truth makes you feel less broken after hiding it from the person that you love for so long. But then I thought, like, okay, no, that's not it as much. It is part of it, but it's him saying, I would definitely take it all back if I could just be your father. If we could do it all over, I would have rather been your father. And so that I see that parallel within him and John Dorie Sr. And that's him like righting the wrongs. It's like saying, I did that for John. I'm not going to do that for you, baby Mo, let's say, or maybe all the baby Mo's that are out there. You know, I want to build, it's not about the place, but the people, you know, and securing their legacy. We do what we do to not secure ourselves and spread the legends, because you're in Howard's office, you're seeing tokens of all these people who were legends in various stripes. But then, you know, at the end of the day, what is it for? I mean, John Dorie's wearing all those things to protect himself because that's all they're good for in the zombie nuclear apocalypse. So then when he goes out in the world, he's doing the right things for the right reasons. It's a completion. It's him saying, this is me honoring my son's memory the way I should have when he was alive. So I kind of like that.
Saving baby Mo, right?
Right,
That's
right.
I'm
Essentially.
doing this to save baby. Okay. So if that was the goal, don't you think putting guts on him would have especially been a better idea? What if he had only made it halfway through that herd and they both got taken out?
Not only that, but he has her pressed right up against the nuclear radiation burns on his chest with just
too.
a little bit of cloth between them. That is not the safest place to put a baby you're trying to keep safe, is right up against your nuclear radiated burns.
This is hard to determine because when I was like watching this episode, I noticed that he says to June, I was safe and quick or whatever, quick and whatever he's saying to June about how he was taking care of Charlie. I don't know that he got his burns from Charlie necessarily.
I'm not saying he, but
No,
you
no, no.
still are. You should not come in contact with people who have nuclear radiation burns on them without some kind of protection other than one little thin strip of cloth. That he held her there for quite a long time. It's not. I mean, it's not like this was just up against her and gone like he would have done with Charlie. He was holding the baby was there for a long time, pressed up against those burns. I just don't think that's very healthy.
Well,
I don't think that was
she's
any
also
less
like in
safe
like
than than gutting up.
well, she was like in a rubber suit though, like or like a raincoat, like a baby rain, which is cute. But this baby raincoat, it was cute. It's cute. It's
was
totally
cute.
cute.
But yeah, it should have been like made of lead. Like instead.
How do you
Right,
know it
right.
wasn't, Bridget?
I mean,
Maybe it was.
lead-lined baby raincoat.
and regardless of that, they didn't gut up because they didn't have time. But yet they had time to record Sonny Boy, a duet, a perfect duet between
I know.
John and
So
Grace. But they didn't have
frustrating.
time to gut up.
Unforgettable. You know what?
They could
Yeah.
have been putting guts on the shit while they were singing.
Well,
Thank you.
you're ignoring the one thing that we've seen in the Walking Dead universe, and that the blood can get you sick, and you can't risk a baby going like putting the guts in her mouth or whatever. So
They did it with
Judith.
you know what?
They
That's
put Judith under. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did
Yeah.
that with Judith.
Yep.
They did.
Carl was carrying her.
But to be fair,
that was before they knew that it could make you sick, though. Too.
this is with a nurse and
Also,
someone
Judith
who
has the cure,
specializes
so.
in not this.
Or go ahead.
not
Sorry.
not this.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, to be fair, they're with June, who is a nurse, who would probably be like, no, don't do that. Whereas in that particular instance of The Walking Dead with Judith, they like had to get out of that house. Look, I'm gonna make excuses because I refuse to feel bad about this. So I'm gonna
honestly,
but I
the bone that you could really pick with this, though, is that why would you even do this? This is way too dangerous. I was worried
to
about
do it this way,
just period.
or to just get her
Period.
out, get Mo out in general.
Yeah. I mean,
it's-
I in general disagree with the idea that Mo is going to be safer outside.
Yes,
If she's going to be safer
disagree as
outside,
well.
then why are they trying to take the tower? Why
Yeah.
do they want to take the tower so bad if baby Mo is going to be safer outside?
it's not so much the physical safety as it is like the mental trauma issue of Victor being your dad. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
so as someone who works in like early childhood education, like the earliest years are the most pivotal. And so if you're being shown people thrown off roofs and shit as an infant, I just feel like that's doing something to your brain, and your brain is routing in a very specific way because of all of that. So like,
But my daddy do it, so why can't I do it?
I mean, I can agree with you, but at the same time, this is also a very different world than your everyday living life. These kids have to grow up tough and maybe a little twisted to survive.
Ooh, I don't know about
Fair.
twisted.
Didn't we hear somebody say that they wanted Mo out of the tower so that they could attack?
Yes,
Right.
also.
They're not going to attack the tower as long as Mo is there.
Right.
But that's not the excuse that they were using. It was like, it's not safe for her in there.
well, unless they
Yeah.
meant it's not gonna be safe
we're gonna
because
attack.
they're gonna
Yeah.
attack. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see if it was worded that way, I guess. I just
Yeah.
in my mind I was like, oh, they're talking about like she's not safe because Victor is like, come here, my sweet precious angel baby. Watch
But
me
here's the
throw
thing.
people off the roof. I'm so crazy now for some reason.
One day you'll throw people off roofs. I won't be able to carry
went that
them.
overboard. The reason Strand went that overboard was because they stole the baby in the first place.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy thing.
Yeah, that's
there,
fair.
Because he was letting other people take care of her and having other people's opinions around her. You know, June was taking care of her. That other girl was. But then they stole the baby, and then Victor was like, oh, she's just going to be with me from now on.
But this isn't about what we think about it, really. This is about, does it make sense that John Dorie did what he did? And it does, because that's John Dorie Sr. His character is one, at least even at this point, the kind of person who says, because of his background, because of what he's been through, because of what he realizes doing bad to do good only leads to bad things anyway. Like, of course, it makes sense for him to say, look, we need to get her out of here because I want to build a better world, a world in which you don't have to throw people off buildings to solidify your future. So, of course, it makes sense for that character.
Everybody in this episode talked about legacies. Well, here's my question. what does a legacy matter in a dead world? Of course, your children are your legacy or whatever, but what does it matter to have a building as a legacy or something like that in a world where none of that matters anymore?
I didn't understand any of that anyway, because that's what I kept thinking is like, your legacy doesn't mean shit now. The world is wrecked. There is nobody to carry on your name. No one cares anymore. It's all about just surviving. So the fact that that was like happening over and over and over again, they're all talking about their legacy, was such an item of luxury based on where they're living now. If you were out there scrapping every day for everything you had, would you even give a shit about your legacy? Like, would you care?
But if you were doing that and you saw Strand's tower, and he'd be like, yeah, you're perfect. You're scrapping by. You want something a little bit better than you did yesterday? Come on in. And then you could think about legacies. Like, yeah, this Victor Strand guy is kind of a cool dude. You know, maybe I want a legacy too. But isn't that people, though?
Yes.
People want more than surviving. Of course it's illogical. Of course, Bridget and Sharondy. Of course it's illogical. But that's how we're built. I mean, that's how we beat the Neanderthals. We were relentless. We cooperated to do it. That's another thing. But, you know, we did it. We weren't ready to be snuffed out. And that's not survival. That's more like, we got to take these guys out because, man, if they evolve, they're going to take us out. So then you create culture from that survival instinct. And you want something more. You got to have more than just eating and pooping in this life. And even in a dead life.
I understand that, but what is the importance of a legacy in this world? There really isn't one. And for them to be making all of these decisions based on making a legacy for themselves just seems irrational.
Yeah.
And why
it is.
And it taints the decisions that they're making to do this thing that doesn't have any meaning anymore.
Bingo. You've hit the nail on the head of why we see people doing, at least, and I'll answer your question in a second, but why people do horrible, even John Dorie Sr., horrible things in the immediate. Because I think people in this tower, at the very least, or people out there, they are assuming, because they have to, that there's a tomorrow. That there's a tomorrow that doesn't involve checking the radiation levels, and that there's a tomorrow that doesn't involve trying to find non-irradiated food and irrigating the top of the roof or hooking up solar panels. They're thinking of a world that doesn't contain the dead, let's say, because they have to. Otherwise, who cares about surviving? Who cares? Well, what's the point? But you're right. It's totally illogical. But this is the struggle. This is where we live, honestly. I write this show. As far as this episode goes, you're talking about extremes now. I want to secure my legacy at the expense of maybe even demolishing my legacy. This is something that John Dorie Sr. says to Victor. Yeah, you want to build a legacy, but if there's nobody around to revel in it, let's say, or you're throwing most of the people, I think your plan is flawed. You're throwing most of the people off this building. Or let's say people how many people are looking at the windows and seeing a body drop every couple days, thinking, which is basically why I think the reason June was able to, because this is something that we should get into now too. It's the reason why June was able to actually even establish a resistance of some kind. Like, you see all these people flying from the rooftops, and she's like, "Yeah, you are you down with this? Vote for June." Like, here's a walkie, maybe. I don't know. But what do you think of all that? Let's get into that, because this existential, philosophical questions are really hard to unravel in a dead world. Like, it's a bigger question to really kind of give the audience to chew on. Like, what's a legacy worth if it's at the expense of surviving even? But let's talk about June's resistance.
All I'm saying is none of the girls were talking about legacies.
Right?
They were just getting this shit done.
Well, June was talking about it, but in the context of, like, this is not where it's at.
Not her legacy. She wasn't
Right.
worried about her legacy. She was just worried about getting shit done.
No, because I love the various stripes of people who regard their different legacies too. Like, Howard's legacy was for, technically, initially, himself when it came to the letter. Strand, it's all about himself as well. This is why they get along so well. But at least Strand is now. The letter was in the past. Howard is just trying to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, regardless of intention. But let's talk about June's resistance, because from the jump, I was like, oh, June definitely gave all these walkies to people. Yeah, totally. And then, like, throughout this episode, everything made me doubt everything, which I like. I like when they were like, is it June? Because there's a lot of people dying right now. That doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound like something June would do. So maybe let's start there. Had the thought crossed your mind that maybe June got a bunch of people killed, I guess, at all? Right? It didn't. But now that you know, you're like, oh shit, June don't care.
Okay, before I say what I think, let me ask you, if June was the one handing out these walkie-talkies, where did she get them? Is she just like swiping them from people as they come into the infirmary and they don't notice? Like, she's been in the tower the whole time. It's not like she's out in the world gathering up random walkie-talkies. So she would have had to like stole them from someplace.
Well, that's really exactly. That's really easy because I'm sure like all the people that come into the tower, they drop them into a receptacle at the stairwell. Like when they bag them over the head.
I mean, do they? Why wouldn't they just hold on to why wouldn't they be responsible for their walkie-talkie?
Because nobody in the building's allowed to have one.
I assume the Rangers.
Not even the
nobody's
Rangers.
allowed to have
check
radios.
them in.
That's why everything was hardwired in the portrait, everything was hardwired.
Oh, it's funny. It's like the sub.
And because they didn't want anybody to have walkies for that reason, so nobody could talk to the outside world.
Yeah.
Without going through Strand
Right.
first.
Control communications. That's like a cult.
Were they all looking for these walkie-talkies because someone said they went missing?
When somebody comes to the tower, they probably search them and take their walkie and put it in a receptacle. So
Like where the antenna was.
maybe June had, maybe see, it may not have been June. I mean, maybe she recruited somebody in
Grace.
somebody in the munitions or whatever, and they swiped a few walkies and handed them out to people.
Senior's the one that planted one on Howard, so why don't we think he was the one handing them out?
But just the one. I went over this episode specifically to figure out, was it all him? And he says he planted just the one on Howard.
Well, yeah,
Twice,
I'm not saying he planted the walkies on people. I'm saying, why couldn't he have been the one giving them to people?
It was just the one.
Yeah, I don't think it was Senior.
The fact that he reiterated it twice in this episode, that it was just the one that he planted on Howard. The one.
That he planted.
After he saw Strand yeeting everybody off the roof for having walkies, he was like, let me get Howard this way, and then I'll move up into his, because he probably figured for sure Strand would just throw Howard off the roof. So he was
he
I'll
almost
move up
did
into
right
his,
then,
his
yeah.
spot or whatever. Yeah. Who knows who's
maybe
giving
it's
them out to the
Wes.
people. If that was even true, maybe those people had their own anyway. But it's entirely possible June gave them out.
Yeah, I feel like it was June.
Unless they were planted on someone, it's no one's fault if they were handed out, because you took on that responsibility to be a part of this revolution when you took that walkie-talkie. So that's technically on you.
Yeah.
That's your free
Right.
will making that
Right.
decision. But I have thought before in previous episodes, if Howard, in like a desperate plot to keep himself in Victor's good graces, would plant stuff on other people to then be like, they're bad. Don't look at me, they're bad. So I've wondered that a lot. If it was maybe it was just Howard putting walkie-talkies into people's stuff. Maybe he didn't like them and he's like, I want them to go.
We heard that woman kind of put up
Yeah.
protests too, like, I didn't, like she was
Right.
going to say the same thing Howard did, like, it
Yeah.
wasn't me.
Right,
So
right.
maybe she was going to tell us, that these things were planted on her too.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to address the Howard thing, though, because that, to me, that actually ultimately doesn't make sense. Because Howard is a true believer. Howard needs this place. And so to go that far is to kill some random people. And I'll say this, because it makes sense on paper, what you're saying. But then what that does ultimately is make Victor Strand even more paranoid than he already is. And I don't think he wants that. I think he believes in Victor. And so to kind of increase his paranoia 10 times fold, it makes Victor's mind clouded, and it will make him more prone to irrational decision making and stray away from what he thinks is already pretty good instincts.
But wouldn't you think that Howard could do that in order for the other people to see that Victor doesn't know what he's talking about? We should oust him out of power and I can rule this tower? What the hell? Why does... This has bothered me since the beginning. Why does Howard fall in line for Victor? For what reason? That was his tower. And Victor just scooted his ass in, lied to his face, and then took it over. For what fucking reason does Howard rely on Victor? It makes
we
no
are all
sense.
devils.
I wanted
in
all
hell
of those answers. I wanted those answers so bad, and I thought we were going to get them with Howard, and then they chucked him off a fucking building. Like, he was going somewhere. He was going to... Like, what the... It's frustrating. I feel you, Bridget. I wanted those answers, too.
The more I think about it, the more I'm like, why would he be loyal to Victor? Like, I just don't understand it.
I don't think the family aspect of it, for me, is enough. that is not enough for him to fall in line with Strand. I mean, that might be like a small fraction of it, but I don't think that's enough to make him fall in line with Strand.
It's kind of like something that Victor says earlier. He regarded Howard as a partner more than a subordinate, let's say. So I think as long as Howard felt like he and Victor were partners, less than a sort of master-slave relationship. Classic Victor, by the way. Victor comes in and he's the pitch man. Howard is like the guy, he's like the classic historian. He's like, I'm a book nerd, I do the research, boy, I don't know how to sell, I don't know how to get tickets to this museum. Enter Victor Strand saying, well, did you think about putting neon signs in the entrance? And this like, did you think about putting a lighthouse light at the top to get people to come to your tower? No, you didn't. But follow me, kid. I could take you on a ride.
But what made this more unbelievable is the fact that we find out that Howard isn't that guy. Howard was a forger. Like, he had to charisma his way through things. He had to lie to people, and he had to be good at it so that they would believe him. So
well,
I'm
that's
just
a different story,
but
though.
we find that out. So it's like all that stuff that we believed about Howard, like where you could say like, oh, he just doesn't know, and so he has to like fall in line because otherwise nothing's going to happen. All of that gets thrown out the window with that exposition. So it's like, I don't
think that makes
it.
Howard charismatic. I think that just makes Howard a convincing liar, but I don't think that makes him charismatic. There's a difference between marketing and lying and fraud. There's a huge gap.
It was enough for people to believe his lies. I mean, there had to be a certain amount of, you know what I mean? He had to have some sort of sway with people to make them believe him.
But that's not even like a creative lie. It's like, you know, I know enough about a thing to forge something. But then once you forge the something, you have to put it on. And then they found him out anyway. So like, of course he didn't succeed. Victor would succeed, right? He would con people all the way to the end, and they wouldn't even find out until after the apocalypse, as we've seen on this series. So like, let's take all of that and put that together. Aren't these guys ebony and ivory in a sense? They're just so good together. Howard is the substance, whereas Victor is the creative. I believe in this thing. Do you believe in it, Howard? Yeah. You know what? I believed in it first. Like, you know what? I believe in you, Howard. And Howard's like, nobody's ever believed in me before.
I hate this. Like, if that was a show, I would hate it.
I would love it.
If it was just Howard and Victor stroking each other's egos. Like,
yeah.
No.
Oh, God.
No.
But then...
At least you added egos.
Well,
right?
So I was going to say sucking each other's dicks, but I felt like it was inappropriate for the podcast.
You just did. So it stays in the show. All of this to say, like, there's a problem with the assumptions. So we think about a lot of things when it comes to Howard, right? Or we thought about a lot of things because he's dead now. But we had thought, oh, he's maybe the eviler guy, or he's playing Victor, or like we thought a lot of things. Well, I mean, you know, it could have been true, but it wasn't at the end. And in the end of the day, what Howard thought was a symbiotic relationship wasn't, in a sense. He thought they were in lockstep. And yeah, Victor's a little eccentric, but you know, that's just Victor. So, like, that's just my friend, partner Victor. I don't think he could see, and maybe this episode does sort of shed a light on that. I don't think he could see, actually, not this episode. Morning Cloak really did illustrate how much he believed in Victor's vision. As much as we regard him as a yes man, I don't think Howard regarded himself as a yes man as much. I think he felt like he was a partner in this. The fact that we could all see it is almost emblematic of the issue, isn't it?
Well, then he has delusions of grandeur, and I'm glad he's dead.
The fact that we have to sit here and still speculate about what side Howard was on makes me even more angry. Like, this character's dead, and we are not going to get these answers.
I'm not speculating. I'm being very clear.
But you're being clear about your opinion. This is not fact. Like, we don't know. We don't know his true motivations. We don't know how far he would have gone. We don't even really know if he could have ended up eventually turning on Strand. It didn't seem like it, but who knows? I mean, Strand could have taken one step too far, and then that could have been it for Howard. He didn't find out that his family had been dead for months. How would he have reacted to that? How would that change his relationship with Strand? There are so many things that we were robbed of, and I'm so angry.
Well, so there's a couple things that you put on the table here. Half of that pile of everything that you just laid out on the table is things that, yeah, no, because we see Howard and he's an enigma. He doesn't say much. He doesn't do much. We got to see a little bit more of him in the last few episodes, let's say. But other than that, not much. We put on him a lot too. We've been thinking about him and talking about him for like a year, by the way.
Right?
Basically. Yeah. But that's just us. That's us trying to put on something that we hope to see, right? But then there's the other half of what you said, which is, wouldn't it have been great if, right? Wouldn't it have been great if knowing that he had a family out there and knowing that they were dead, he would do and think something differently, right? That I accept, because that is what you said earlier in the episode, that is a life cut short that could have been really cool to see what would happen, right? The first part, though, is that's us. That's our biases. That's what we would have wanted to have seen, but we didn't get. Like, I would have loved if Dakota was actually John Dorie Sr.'s granddaughter. But, que sera, sera. I write this show, but apparently I don't. Tierney's like, no.
I'm glad that
was
play
not
out
true.
that way.
I thought that was a great theory, guys.
I'm sorry, but how
mean,
many
it
people
made
are
me
going to be
nervous.
related? Texas is not this incestuous. It's like too large for there to be so many.
It's not Alabama.
Isn't it? No. And Ginny being John Dorie's his daughter. Oh my God, that'd be great.
And related to Rick, Ginny Grimes.
Oh, now we're getting incestuous. Now we're getting real incestuous. No, so
I hate it. I hate it.
by the way, me saying this to you, Rach, is like not to say you're so stupid. It's not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we kind of have to take a step back and say, okay, well, that's how they decided to do it. And it's frustrating because I've been frustrated with almost every single death that they've had in these episodes. I was upset about Ali and Arno. Like, they got me frustrated for people that, we shouldn't need to care about. You introduce a character in one episode, now I already care about him, but then they're gone. Or even Arno, somebody who I really didn't like, and then you got me to actually kind of feel bad for him. And Sage. Won't somebody talk about Sage? I talk about him enough. Okay, why don't we pivot here just for a second? Because I know we kind of expressed it, like Bridget kind of expressed it. Do you feel bad that Howard is gone? Like, in a I feel bad for him kind of way?
The only thing I feel bad about Howard is that he didn't know what happened to his family before he died. He died not knowing what happened to his family. Other than that, I don't feel bad for him dying in any way, because he was a jerk. He was throwing people off buildings. He threw a fucking 15-year-old kid off the roof. Fuck Howard.
As opposed to prior episodes, did you find yourself feeling bad for Howard in any way? Like, as a person, or like...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Or did this episode build it to where you could feel bad for him?
All right, I'm going to sound like a real asshole right now, but...
Go for it.
I didn't feel bad for Howard. I felt bad for me, because I didn't get the answers I wanted about this character.
So political. You should run for office. Gretchen Whitmer, watch out.
Watch your back, Gretch. But did I feel bad for Howard? No. Like Charity said, he's been chucking people off the building. Like, he definitely deserved to die. I just didn't want to see it happen this early. I wanted it to be
I felt bad for me. Why don't we talk about me more?
This is about my feelings.
Dave, you asked a good question. But you know what? We should talk about me.
That was my asshole moment.
I think I felt more comfortable with him going because of how they ping-ponged us emotionally with his character. Not that I was glad that he was gone, but just that, like, I have all this information in front of me now that I didn't have before. I've seen him in prior episodes do some heinous shit. We always wondered what he is capable of and why he does what he does. Now we kind of know. And like, what made it, and like, I'll repeat it again for the audience in the back, what made it a little easier for me to stomach was the fact that, like, what he was trying to do was never going to happen, essentially.
Bring his family there.
Yeah, exactly. If you had liked Howard or found some sympathy for Howard, well, I think he would have rather have been thrown off a roof. So who better to throw him off the roof than John Dorie Sr., in a sense? Like, this kind of good avatar, let's say. Do a little bad to do good kind of avatar. Like, who...
Is there a good way to be thrown off a building, David?
Yeah, a swan dive right on the head so you don't turn into a walker. Oh.
Well, too bad he didn't land on his head.
Well, because why would you want to be robbed of that, right? Think about it.
I mean, one of the things I always wonder is how effective are the walkers that they throw off the building, because none of them can, like, actually be mobile and chase anybody or anything. You saw Howard, his arm all broken out of his arm bone sticking out.
I still remember Will.
Will with his spine sticking
like
way
an
out.
accordion.
So, unless they're like like snakes in the grass. So like when somebody's walking through the pile, they don't see them. There's like cobra strike at their ankles.
Don't you think they'd also be like tripping the other walkers? Like if they're just army crawling around, like the other walkers are tripping and falling over them. Like that seems like a hazard.
Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, like, okay, what if that would have been, I would have liked that a little more. Like, what if Howard was the one to bite John Dorie Sr.?
Oh my gosh.
There would have been some sort of poetry in that. I am just like you.
I feel like there should legitimately be a lot more army crawling walkers out in front of the moat. Like there shouldn't be quite as many standing.
I'm surprised Howard made it out as far as he did as a walker, right? It was like kind of a distance between the doors. Go, Walker Howard.
I mean, unless they like really threw him. Like, I mean, if they like.
Well, we saw where he landed. It was kind of like near the wall.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to see him go all the way down.
And here's something else. So, like, the whole point of turning off the beacon and everything was so that the walkers would disperse and they could get in. Well, all the walkers were following Morgan anyway when he left with Mo. So why don't they just get something out there to make noise and draw the walkers away?
Too expensive.
As you're walking, as you're watching Morgan walk away, you can see all the walkers following him.
And we know they're going to choose fresh meat over a light. You know, give them some food in front of them. They're going to follow that.
You guys are thinking way too ahead. I'm not so not concerned.
I was kind of curious what you guys thought about this because I did see some stuff online about. I'm very torn and I don't know how to feel about this. On one side, I want to be mad at Morgan, but at the same time, it's like I do get it. But I did see Morgan taking a lot of grief for basically hightailing it out of there once Senior handed over Baby Mo. And Morgan was like, see ya, bye, and like ran the fuck out of there. But I get like, what else should he have done?
No, I'm gonna take out all these walkers for a bitten
man.
man.
Yeah. What's he gonna do? Is gonna die anyway. John knows he's gonna die anyway. So, and like, even me, Queen Morgan hater, did not hate Morgan for that. I was like, no, Morgan, you go on because you got the baby. Get the fuck out. You can't help John.
I felt the same way. Okay,
you know
thank
what?
you. Good.
There is a better critique here that should have been pointed out a little bit better, and this is something that I thought. Now that you guys are talking about it, like I'm thinking to myself, shouldn't there have been, I don't know, like a moment between he and John Dorie Sr.? I'm not saying that they're supposed to be, touching moment between John Dorie Sr. and Morgan, but I thought they could have had that beat a little bit more.
I mean, I did see a moment.
And solemn.
I did see a
There
moment.
was a moment.
There was a moment.
No, and I saw it.
Keep her alive. I will. That was it.
You know
He's
what
like,
I mean.
I'm sorry, or didn't Morgan say I'm sorry, John, or something along those lines?
when he saw the bite, he was genuinely like, oh my god, yeah, like
just another Dorie,
my best friend's father,
to the altar of Morgan.
Yeah,
But I just feel like had there
it felt rushed, is what I'm saying, right? A little bit.
had there been more of a moment between Morgan and John, that would have taken away from the fact that whole thing and the song was supposed to be about Senior to John Jr. Like that's what that was all supposed to be about. And so that would have taken away from all of that. And that was really just like the pièce de résistance, like with the whole thing was just this like this striking human moment of like, I've never done right by you. And this is me trying. And you're not even here. I can never do right by you. But this is the best I can do. And like, as someone who had a really horribly strained relationship with her father, like this spoke to me on like such a level.
Well
and
said.
so I'm glad it went the way that it did. And so F you people who have like normal families. So you're like, Morgan didn't pay attention to him. Screw you. Okay? Like get some baggage and then you'll know what this is like. Okay?
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna hand my legacy off to the person who got my son killed. Here, take my legacy.
The cloud of mystery. We'll never know. I'm Squawking Dead. Ooh. Well, to Morgan's credit, though, he lets him also. I think Morgan of pre-season 4 would have been like, no, our life is precious. I must save. You're still alive, John Dorie Sr. But if you go through all the nuances, am I really, though? I have radiation. I've been bit. The deck is kind of stacked here. This is the way I want to go. And so that's kind of what I wish there would have been, like more of a moment there. Be like, no. Sorry, Morgan, don't. It's just not worth it. You need the time. You need time to get away. You need time to get away.
to see Morgan try a little harder, is what you're saying?
That's really it. But that's just my to what I was trying to say to you. That's just my bias, right? That's like what I would have wanted. But I get what.
And I'm like, no, I get it, man. Get the fuck out of there. Run.
But what Bridget says, compounded with the fact that, like, obviously they need to kind of, first of all, close the book on this episode and more focus on John Dorie Sr., what he does. And then probably what Charity likes a lot is, like, Morgan getting less screen time. Yeah, that's fine.
Get off the screen.
And I'll say it again. I don't mind. Doesn't bother me at all. I would like to focus on more of the other characters also. Like, as much as I like Morgan, it's all about the story. And so I like all of these answers. All of them. I have no problem with a single one at all.
What got to me was when Senior was going through the Walker horde, and they did that camera angle that was kind of looking up at him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know, he had the camera strapped right here or something, and the way it was jerking around
two of them.
and everything.
There was one that was head on that where they have to attach the camera, a static camera to him.
That, for some reason, that got to me more emotionally than anything, was just that shot of seeing him get, I guess it was supposed to, like, him getting jerked around by the walkers and stuff, looking up, and that was the one that got me out of all of it.
I hate to prod a little bit more, but, like, what was it about it? It wasn't the anxiety. For me, it was anxiety, but it was like the emotional struggle of having to go through all of that.
I'm not really sure why exactly it touched me so much, but maybe it's partly because of the weird angle. It's not one you normally see. Yeah. And it's made him look really vulnerable because you could see the bottom of his throat and all that. And maybe it just made me feel more vulnerable. What really did it was when he was getting jerked around, like, I don't know if they were shaking the camera, obviously it wasn't really him, but it just looked like he was doing like this. And
it was him.
I don't know why. It just really, yeah.
Because it was attached to him.
That was,
yeah.
So, was it supposed to be like Baby Mo's point of view?
No.
I don't think so.
Although that would be scary.
Her face was like.
Well, then if they were gonna do that, they should have done a filter, and then at the bottom it would have said "baby cam."
Baby cam.
The Mo cam motion capture.
Speaking of Baby Mo, when they find her down in the basement and she's in the box, was I the only one that thought about Baby Moses getting set afloat in the river?
Oh my
I did
God.
not.
Like, for real. I was like, just float her out the fucking tunnel.
That's so
like Baby Moses in the basket.
That's so cute. I didn't think of that, but now that it's cute. You know what I actually instantly thought of when I saw that? Because the first shot that you see is the box actually going. It made me think of Fred and Bee's kid for a hot sec. Right?
Oh,
Oof.
Or Emil's head in Morgan Jones' basket.
A little box. Ooh. But Fred and Bee, that's what I thought of at first. So there's like a little bit of a parallel sort of mirror thing, like, oh, only this baby is alive. Ooh.
I thought they're trying to keep her safe, so let's shove her in a box. Are there air holes in there, or is she gonna suffocate?
There were no air holes in that box.
Right?
It's a little scary.
I'm not touching this one.
No, I didn't like it.
I don't know what to say about that at all.
Yeah, I don't. That whole scene was a little confusing too.
Couple scenes down there.
Like, they were down there, and then they got in the hidey hole, and then they came out of the hidey hole, and then they went back into the hidey hole, and then they came out again, and then
why
and I'm
didn't
what
they
is
just
happening?
walk up the stairs and
Do
get out?
something.
Like, you were right there at the staircase. Why didn't you just walk out of the stairs?
I don't know.
Also, there were like 6 walkers. Like, they could have literally just went bink, 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 bink when they had the gate up in the little hidey thing. Like, we've seen
and some of those
people
were very
take out more walkers.
That's what I want to focus on too, because that's what made me okay with that, because I was scared for everybody involved down there. As long as there are those kinds of walkers out there, I was scared for everybody. Baby Mo, June, John Dorie Sr., because I was like, okay, this guy's already, okay, he's gone. So I'm watching the episode again. June, I'm a little scared for you, because if you go out there and you don't have help, something's going to happen. Baby Mo, that's a baby.
I've thought this a number of times in a bunch of different Walking Dead shows, but anytime they're like holding something up and their fingers are on the outside of it, I'm like, you're gonna get your finger bit, you freaking idiot. That's what I always think of, is their fingers sticking out. And then they were in the water again. So again, I was like, get out of the water. You freaking idiot. You can't see to the bottom of the floor. There. There's something down there, and they're gonna Bob Stookie you moron. Get out of there.
We know there's crawling walkers outside, so
right. They are constantly putting June in the water. Like every season, she's been in the water at least once.
And every time I panic. Every time I'm like, no.
Every time, which is why I don't sweat that too much, I don't think. Because, like, okay, any number of things could have gotten them. Is it as simple as going pop, 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 pop? Does she even have a knife on her, even? I'm just thinking, too. I don't know.
June?
Yeah.
She was stabbing the walkers when John came down there. She was down there, wasn't flooded yet, and all the sandbags were up there, and she was standing there stabbing the walkers that were in behind the gate in the tunnel because she was going to take Baby Mo through the tunnel.
Yeah, and I think also the main concern was, okay, more walkers were pouring in the second time they were trying to go out. And so what June ultimately wants anyway is to get Baby Mo the hell out of there. So when you realize that that's a fool's errand, but see, that's the thing. I think June was so motivated to get Baby Mo, I don't think she would have cared and would have chanced it anyway because she had the gear with her. You're saying, like, why didn't she just take them out and go back up the stairs? That's not what she ultimately wanted. She was driven too hard to get Baby Mo out of there.
But she's a medical professional. She needs to be extra careful because they're always the ones who die.
But we know that. If only we could send a message into Victor's tower.
Let me send Jenna a message. Jenna, stop putting June in these positions.
Because, you know, she
June
writes the
needs to be
show.
careful.
And then meanwhile, she goes to you like in private. Do you want me to get killed off the show? Because people who talk to the writers, they don't end up lasting very long. Look at Tom Paine as Jesus. Yeah, but I did like John Dorie's struggle, John Dorie Sr.'s struggle. Him being like, I want to do what you say, but like, is this the best plan? Is Baby Mo and the sub the best plan? Legacy, him just off the heels of his conversation with Howard. So I get where he's coming from. Like he has a meeting of the minds with Howard and maybe reminds him of the kind of person that he was. And he's like, well, this is about Baby Mo. I want to build her a legacy, but is that legacy in the tower? And so him kind of looking back and forth at the tunnel and then back up the stairs and the tunnel back up the stairs. I felt that. Why does it have to be so simple? Why can't people be confused and frustrated and be okay with that? No, you need to think clearly. We need to enjoy this show. Our good guys need to be good and our bad guys need to be bad. So I was like, I liked it. I liked that it wasn't his clear choice also.
You just sounded like Stuart from Mad TV. Our bad guys need to be bad. It's like what it reminded me of. Sorry.
Why doesn't John Dorie Sr. kill Victor when he realizes what he's up to?
That is a whole other conversation.
That is the
switching
conversation
gears now.
Yeah, but, well, it relates to Mo in a sense, I think.
Well, first of all, a gunshot in the tower would have brought everybody running up there and he would have been caught out immediately.
Good answer. Is what John Dorie Sr. wants to kill Strand, though. His primary motivation throughout the last few episodes were to convince him, I think, right? And not to use violence or death.
Maybe he took June's words to heart. Maybe Victor will change you. And by murdering Victor basically in cold blood, by shooting him in the back of the head, would put him on par
with what June says. Is,
Victor.
Yeah. I love that. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Like, oh, if I kill him now, June is right about him changing me. Which would be against his character. Interesting. I love it. Okay. And so maybe that's what gets him to really motivate him to get Baby Mo out of the tower. I don't want this place changing Baby Mo. Is that where we're at?
Or shaping her,
Yeah.
rather.
Molding her. But even still, like, whatever it is, as long as Victor's in charge, it changes you. But I can't be... Maybe he's saying, I can't be the one to kill. The writers say I'm not the one who can... Because it's against my character, and it would make Victor the master over me, like he was over Howard in a sense. Because at the end of the day, Victor strings along Howard for this ride. And this is why I say there's a symbiotic relationship between Howard and Victor. Victor has been stringing Howard along for five months, let's say, since he found out about, and however long it's been since they've been in the tower. Victor has essentially made Howard the spirit of this tower, the beating heart of this tower. He needs Howard. He needs him to believe. That's why he needs him as a partner. And Howard needs Victor because it's almost as if Howard is enslaved to him by his creative ability to find the right people to bring in, the motivated people. I don't think Howard has that skill. Strand seems to know people enough to know the kinds of people that need this tower. I don't think Howard has that skill set. I mean, he's a con man. This is basic 101 Victor Strand. And so Howard sees that and he says, I don't know people like that, but I believe in you and I think you know. So they have this symbiotic relationship. Oh, I need to build a family, a building that will keep my family safe. Can you help me, Victor? Build a snowman. And so he does. And so I think from Howard's perspective, I think that he thinks that this is a symbiotic relationship that where both of them keep this place up. From Strand's perspective is, I just need to string him along long enough to make him believe that he is the beating heart of this tower. People look to him for answers rather than directly at Strand's face. You know, because like when people want things, they kind of usually go to Howard, it seems like, right?
When have we seen that? Give me an example.
From the last few episodes, it seems like when people want something, they kind of go to Howard. They don't bother Victor Strand directly.
Victor was gone for some of that.
Strand, he was out of the tower, yeah.
True.
So
true. But I also think, like, would you want to go up to Victor Strand and ask him a question?
No, because he's
possibly yeeted off a roof?
For a long time, he was accusing everyone of trying to kill him. So, like, no.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't think so.
So then why not Howard, right? And maybe Victor knows that, too. Victor kind of wants it to be, I'm the Pharaoh, don't look directly at my face. It's too bright. You'll get blinded. It makes you think a little bit, though, too.
Fair enough. So, like, in high school, you got a principal, that's Strand, but it's really the vice principal that kind of does all the work. That's Howard.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's exactly it, really. Yeah. I mean, look, when you want to call your mother because you're sick or your father or whatever.
Yeah, you don't talk to the principal.
You talk to the administrator, right? You talk to somebody in the office. You don't knock at the principal's door. You're the one I need to talk to, the man in charge.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I got shit to do here. I got ideas a-brewing. So the bottom line is Howard does keep the place running. Victor has the ideas. Howard is the execution, essentially. Victor doesn't get his hands dirty. They're dainty.
His laugh when he goes, ha ha ha, wow. That was the second funniest part of the episode. The first funniest was when Wendell was like, you think I could hide a baby?
What was the thing? Oh, yeah. And the second thing that Wendell does, aren't you going to go gut up, right? Like, aren't we going to tear some bodies open and put blood all over you?
There's no time. I have to record a song.
Wait.
I got to cut this album real quick.
Guys.
Hold on.
Wait, so my funniest part of this episode is actually the overhead shot of the first person they eat off the roof. Why is that the funniest part to me? You see Victor Strand playing with Baby Mo. But it's not Baby Mo. It is so obviously a doll. And I was just like, do you know how I knew? Okay, Victor was just, he was just like much in the way you would a doll. He was like twisting it left and right. And so its little foam-filled legs were just dangling around. And I was just like, whoa. First of all, slow down. That baby's going to throw up all over you. And then you're like, oh, not a real baby.
No wonder she wasn't safe in the tower. Give her somewhere where they know how to hold a baby.
Strand's going to give her shaken baby syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. And never calls Baby Mo. It just goes, hey, baby, just a baby.
Well, he can't bring himself to say Morgan or Mo.
I know.
Oh, right?
That's the thing.
Why did he rename that baby?
I'm surprised he didn't rename it Victoria.
Yeah. This is what you get in the group chat.
That's right, Rachel. Great minds, Rachel.
Or Abby. That would be kind of a callback to the Abigail, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my cute little Abigail. Burr, burr, burr.
I knew it wasn't her because the hair was wrong. I was so distracted by the hair on the doll.
The arc-shaped legs that were puffy, and they looked puffy. They looked like a Cabbage Patch Kid. And like they were like, and they didn't have weight to them. That's what got to me. Like when he was twisting Baby Mo, playing with, they were just kind of like flapping in the wind. It was just like, whoa, that's gross and weird.
You heard it here first, folks. It was actually a Cabbage Patch doll. The episoder insider won't give you that kind of fact.
Yeah, you come to Squawking Dead for this funny shit. So now when people watch the episode, they'll be like, oh, ooh, that is a doll. It's not, you shouldn't do that, Coleman Domingo. You should know better.
I always wonder, like, what kind of decisions were made for that, right? Like, did Coleman say, I would rather not hold the baby? Or did they say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to take the chance of anything happening. Where are those decisions made to say, we're going to use a doll for this part?
The parent could have been like, I don't want my child to witness a foe throwing someone off a building.
Yeah.
I'm just not quite sure how they're going to handle that. No, thank you.
Right, because you know that scene isn't filmed on a roof, right? Like, I think that
Right,
when
right.
so the overhead shot is filmed on a roof, but then when they go back to the person side view of what is happening, obviously that's a soundstage. They're not going to throw a lady off a roof. And first of all, the liabilities. No, but like, it's got to be like a place where they can throw her off, and there's like a mattress just underneath to catch her. Not like, okay, guys, we're going to do this crazy stunt and intentionally put a stunt person in harm's way. No, we can do that on a soundstage. Calm down. We've had people die in this universe before because of stunts. No mas, amigo. When you go back to the person shot, it is the little baby actress that is in Victor's arms too. But here's the thing. I looked at it, and at first I was just like, whoa, that's a Cabbage Patch Kid. Coleman Domingo, calm down. But then I appreciated that because there's this silliness of Victor playing with this doll. Victor, let's go Victor, is playing with this doll while somebody's getting fucking janked off the roof, right? So there's like, la 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 la, holy shit, what's happening here? Like, what's going on this side here? So I just thought there was a twistedness to it that I kind of appreciated at the end of the day.
That juxtaposition between the mundane and the insane that we keep seeing on Better Call Saul.
I like how you put it. You're like tweaking it, mundane and insane. I like it. Let's move back into Howard's office. We're going to talk about the thing that we've written all the things down, at least me and Sharon D. So
I got notes.
Same.
I'm excited.
Why don't you start us off? Because like as we go through Howard's office, we do get to see some of the close eye shots of all the things that John Dorie Sr. ends up wearing to go into the moat of walkers to plow through.
So the first one I want to bring up was not something John Dorie was wearing. It's the Bible with the musket ball in it that's laying on
That's
Howard's
what I put down
desk.
first too.
I did some research and I found one that was in the museum in Texas. It was in the Houston Museum, and it's Sam Houston Jr.'s Bible from the Battle of Shiloh. And that was in a Houston museum, and we know, of course, that Howard went around and was taking stuff from museums. So, and that's the only instance I could find in Texas for the Bible with the musket ball through it. Although there are lots and lots of instances
throughout history,
in other places. This one obviously had to be Civil War or before.
Bingo.
Because it was a musket ball and not a bullet.
Yeah, the one that they particularly used in this episode shot is like almost like a little replica of the Charles Merrill's American Civil War Bible. This is one that was stopped by a musket ball. He was in the Battle of Chancellorsville. He was from Massachusetts. Now, this particular ball, so we're talking about the Civil War. Why does that make sense? Because we're currently in a Civil War-ish thing, right?
Civil War.
Okay. This is why I was more convinced it was that than it was the Sam Houston one, which I did look up. And I ultimately wrote this one instead of the same, because I knew you would bring it up. So I'm like, okay, let's leave that for Sharon. So what ended up happening was, because of the story, he wrote to President Lincoln, and he said, here is the very Bible. And he fought for the Union soldiers too. This is the very Bible that stopped the bullet, this musket bullet. And he sends it to Lincoln. Lincoln sends him a brand new spanking new Bible, and with an inscription from him on it saying, I forgot, I didn't write down what he actually said, but it was kind of a touching thing. But why it's important is obviously the Civil War. Like, we want to illustrate Civil War, at least, and evoke that at least.
So why I feel like it's the Sam Houston Bible is because every single one of the artifacts in Howard's office that they focused on was connected to Texas in some way. Every single one of them. Chancellorsville was in Virginia, and that guy was in Massachusetts. Yeah. So I feel like it's the Sam Houston one.
Although
just simply because of location.
He does say don't touch this one, so maybe it isn't from Texas. He's like, no. All the Texas ones you can touch. This one is not from Texas. Please don't touch it. But if you look at the pictures of what I'm talking about now, it's probably going to be on the screen. It is literally what they showed in the shot looks literally like that. Charles Merrill's musket ball Bible, because it's like you said, it's a musket ball. The one from Sam Houston was not. I read the caliber of the bullet in it, and the hole is tiny.
It looks different, but like I said, what tied it in for me was the
Texas history.
It was something that took place in Texas, and along with all of the other artifacts that were in the room.
Honestly, I struggled with this one too, because I wanted it to be the Sam Houston one, but the Sam Houston one, the bullet hole in the Sam Houston was tiny.
It's a lot smaller. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, near the spine at the top left.
The boxing gloves are from Jack Johnson. This is what it says on the ticket. Jack Johnson, 1878 to 1946. He was called the Galveston Giant.
Yep.
He was from Galveston. Did you figure out the hockey pads? The pads?
I did. But
hockey pads from the Dallas Texans.
Can we focus on the boxing gloves? Because I wrote some interesting facts about each of these. First heavyweight African American boxer in the world. He won the title during the Jim Crow era. The expression "the Great White Hope" comes from his challenger, who wanted to reclaim his title. And this is, of course, Jim Crow era. Jeffries was white. Jeffries was his opponent. Obviously, he loses in his rematch, which sparks racist acts in big cities all across the country. We're not talking about like in the middle of nowhere. We're talking about New York City, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, etc. Interesting fact, John Arthur Jack Johnson, he had a kind of checkered past. In history, we don't know the details of why he ended up landing himself in prison. I mean, essentially, he was accused of violating the Mann Act, which is basically taking women across the border to do illicit activities. He was married several times,
and his wives were white, which is also
right.
a very salient point in the Jim Crow era.
Right. Well, yes, exactly, and so that's why it's so confusing. He had been known to beat his wives, but here's the thing: so many people have tried to advocate posthumously for his pardon from his prison sentence. Let's say, and his prison sentence was a year and a month, so it wasn't even that long. But the fact that he had this record, it made it so that he couldn't box again. That ended his career essentially. But up until President Trump, so Reagan was asked to pardon him, even Obama was asked to pardon him. He couldn't do it. They asked Trump to do it, and Sylvester Stallone managed to get Trump to actually pardon him posthumously. And I thought that was kind of cool, actually, after all these years.
Does this help us with like theories going forward at all?
But it does illustrate legends.
It's just the little details that they put in for us to find.
Yeah, these are all people who have legacies, and they're checkered and not perfect.
There you go. I mean, that right there ties it in. Yeah. And John wears these legacies. It's great. Right.
I got a little tie-in for you. The armor.
Yes.
That John looks at. It says on the ticket that's on it, it says 16th, and believe me, I had to look really hard to read that.
I got it too.
16th century Conquista breastplate, recovered from Mission San Francisco de la Espada. This was the first Spanish mission in East Texas. It was founded in 1690. Under threat of Native American attack, the priest burned it in 1693. It was rebuilt in 1716 as Nuestra Padre, San Francisco, Las Tejas.
Our father,
and then was abandoned again in 17.
Our father of Texas.
It's not the Padre.
Yeah.
16th century armor that was found in the mission after it was
Spanish armor. Yep. Yeah, several times too. Like, so they kept relocating it, fleeing it, leaving it, fleeing it, leaving it, fleeing it. But all what? Yes. Because their initial mission was to convert the Native Americans every single time, and there was always this struggle between.
And the natives were like,
no. I mean, some did, but like there was this rebellious nature from the Native Americans. Why? We're trying to give them God. But the problem is every time they tried to do it, they kept fleeing. The people who established the church kept fleeing or relocating or coming back and relocating. Never mind the fact that the Spanish were trying to, there was always this tension between the Spaniards and the French because of territorial conflict. So that was all in the backdrop of this one mission that they were trying to do and kept fleeing. So there's something interesting about the tower, the idea of converting people into this idea of like, oh, this is the only way. But then instead of like the tower, people were fleeing. They ended up abandoning the mission. Let's say every 3 years, essentially, too, by the way, or something like that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So like to contrast what the tower means versus what the mission means. Ultimately the mission means.
Well, it's fitting that that senior, who is a father in Texas, would have on the armor of the father of Texas, right?
Handshake. This is a handshake. Yeah. Very well done. I love it.
And what was he doing? Fleeing.
Fleeing.
Love it. Go, Rachel, go.
Doesn't that kind of explain our setting from like in every show, every single one of them, because they constantly are going somewhere and then burning it down
Yeah,
and moving somewhere else, and then burning it down, and moving somewhere else and burning it down.
Yeah.
This is your biggest critique. Like, guys,
Common
don't let
theme.
them in the tower. They'll just burn it down. And your dreams and your hopes. It's not like they mean it, guys. Shut the fuck up. Don't do it. Morgan, don't step foot in the tower. First of all, it's not even about the baby Mo and all your friends. You'll burn it down. You can't help yourself.
The helmet on the ticket, it said World War I Doughboy helmet belonging to Medal of Honor winner Private David B. Barkley,
David Bennis Barkley.
1917 through 1918. Bennis, I could not make out that word to save my life.
Yeah.
Of the U.S. Army. It was awarded posthumously. He won the award by swimming the Meuse River and reconnoitering German positions under heavy fire, and he drowned on the way back. He's from San Antonio, Texas. That was why it was the connection to Texas.
Yeah.
Which, maybe he's Charlie. He gets sent to reconnoiter positions, and it ended up dying.
That's me clapping. Sorry for the people who can't see me clapping. Yeah. And funny enough, he just like Jack Johnson, the Galveston Giant, his full name is actually David Bennis Barkley Kentu. So when he enlisted, he actually used his father's Anglo name or his mother's Anglo name. I forget which, but yeah, he was worried that when he enlisted that they would segregate him from the rest of the soldiers like they had commonly done throughout history. So like Civil War, a lot of the black soldiers were in the black platoon or battalion.
The black regiment.
Yeah, exactly. So he was afraid that they would do that to him, whether it's by design or like also socially. Like sometimes soldiers would just naturally segregate themselves from one another. Obviously, throughout time, through the last 100 years, that's been less of the case. But yeah, and then he ends up getting the Medal of Honor posthumously too. You're right, like you said, getting intel behind enemy lines in the German lines in World War I. Really cool. Mm-hmm. But again, legacy. This is the legacy. And he is a lot like John Dorie Sr. in that respect because he does the right thing for the right reasons and pays the price for it. Mm-hmm. You know, that's kind of sweet. And he wears that all over his body. All these legends speaking through him. Kind of cute.
Including the Dorie.
Does he wear the Dorie boots?
Legacy. Yes, those are the Dorie boots he's got on.
That's so cool.
Well, the Driscoll
boots.
Jedi Driscoll boots.
Which is kind of weird because what is that from? We have to illustrate exactly what it was.
The second JD shot and killed Deadeye Driscoll in Blackwater, and he even got his picture in the paper. Mm-hmm. the second of the six, because John Dorie Jr. was the sixth,
right in the line,
Dorie.
right.
So
right, so we find this out from JD, right? I think it was the episode JD of last year.
JD. I've already made a meme. I've already memed
Good,
it. It's in my phone,
and it's going on the screen now. Probably. I just love that little factoid. Like it's a little bit of John Dorie. Mm-hmm. He made Howard's room of curios is his history of Texas history.
I wonder if Howard ever put it together, John Dorie and
probably
Dorie
actually. I think, which is why I think he wanted him as one of his top guys too. Why not, right? I mean, what we're doing here is on the side of the angels, so I need an angel.
I like that those little details aren't really consequential, but I love that they put those little things in there for us to find. That's one of the things I love most about these shows like this and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. It doesn't further the story or anything, but it just gives you that little bit more to think about in it, if you want to take the time to look all that stuff up.
Well, yeah. I like that the general theme... yeah. I like that the general theme for this episode was about legacy, like you said, like leaving a legacy. What's that going to be? What's it going to look like? And then here we see a room full of artifacts from legends who left a legacy, you know, good, bad, in between, whatever. But,
that's the most. That's what I like about it most.
Yeah, Senior covers himself in all of this, you know, to protect himself. You know, I think,
or help him
like
along.
That too.
You know?
I didn't. Right. Yeah. I didn't take the time to research all of that, but I'm so glad you guys did.
You know,
and I do like that. Yeah. I do all this for Walking Dead because I know you guys will cover Fear, so I don't need to work so hard for this one.
You know what though? Do you know why I love doing that? All of the stuff that Sharon and I do mean nothing without you. Nothing. I'll tell you why. Because I don't know if this is going to make the episode, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway. When we had done this podcast initially, I was that guy. And it was just me and Carol. Carol brings up a good point. What the podcast started to become was all about the Easter eggs and the pixel hunting and finding out what was on the screen and kind of like bringing that to the light for people who may have missed it. Where it was about to go, because I pushed it in that direction, is just that. Carol brought up a good point, and that's, we need to have more of a natural back and forth. Stop looking at your notes. Take them, but don't look at your notes as much. I haven't looked at my notes until just now. What she said was right, but what we said is also right. But here's the thing. If you do bring up a pixel hunt and a fact-finding mission and all these things that you can research on your own, and you're not going to do it, but we're going to do it for you. It means nothing if there's not a backboard of which somebody actually cares and has a thought on it. Otherwise, you're just saying things and it's kind of boring. But when you brought up that Legends thing, you're like, well, what's the point to all of this? Mm-hmm. Legacy.
I mean, it's cool.
And then you went back and forth, and you're like,
yeah.
And then you made what we brought to the table worth it, because you had that factoid that completed the circle. See?
Guess what? Teamwork makes the dream work.
Paching. That's how I knew we did it. We did right. That's how I know this is a success story in the making. One more factoid. We almost skipped over it. The hockey pads. I didn't know those were hockey pads at first.
I didn't either. I looked up Dallas, because the Dallas Texans were a football team, I thought, but not in 1941. In 1941, they were a hockey team that lasted exactly from 1941 to 1942.
They were legends in their own time.
So not a success.
Yeah.
Not.
Well, it was the AH, the American Hockey Association, which is I think became defunct rather quickly. Mm-hmm. And then it became the National Hockey League.
It was like the
NHL,
the extreme football league of the 1940s.
Yeah. Well, in the 30s and 40s and in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, like, there were organized sports didn't really exist in the way that
national organized sports.
Now,
yeah,
it was local.
Chapters.
Like Dallas had a team, and Houston would have a team, and they would all, all the Texas teams would play each other. Yeah,
regionally, but, right.
Right. It wasn't until really, I would say, probably the 40s and 50s after the war that they started centralizing sports.
Right, with the advent of commercial flights.
Right. Those little leagues, they just didn't last long, especially if you had a war come up, Like, we saw it in League of Their Own, where when all the guys went off to war, they had the girls form this local little league that played around Illinois, because they were in Racine, Chicago, I can't remember the other places, but it was just these little team, and those they just didn't last, and especially once the organization of sports came along.
Well, and of course,
I know way more about football than other sports, but I'm sure they all kind of went the same way.
Yeah. So the hockey heavy pads,
they didn't have like a name of who wore them or anything, and I don't know anything about hockey. I was assuming they were goalie, but I found a list of all the people that played on the team in 1941.
Yeah.
But I couldn't assign them to anybody on the team.
Right.
I couldn't figure out who they were.
As far as I could tell, the only real significance was Texas's first hockey team, 1941 debut. Yeah. No real heavy significance. As far as legacies go, I mean, the legacy of being the only team and then not really being one anymore.
That's funny to me, because you don't think of Texas as a icy place.
Texas has the Dallas Stars as the only NHL team. I don't know shit about hockey, so
yeah. I didn't look into enough to see if there would be a sort of significance to the show.
I have a Walking Dead hockey fact. Walking Dead alum, Teddy Bear Girl, a.k.a. Addie Miller, is an intern for the Carolina Hurricanes, which are
that's right.
North Carolina's
I just saw that.
hockey team.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go Addie.
You go, girl. The thing that I thought funny was it looked like he wore them upside down, which is kind of...
Yeah, because like the hard... round parts are supposed to go over the knee.
Right, it was on his ankles.
Yeah. But more protection from biting, more protection from ankle biters.
Which is
for baby mouse.
Which is the bulk of what's out there.
Like Howard's. Yeah. The roadblocks.
Yeah. He knew most of them would be crawling, so he had to protect the ankles.
Man, all the walkers they had yeeted off the roof.
All the newborn walkers.
What a great trap. All the wills of the world. When Victor says to John Dorie Sr., I need you on this when it comes to finding Baby Mo, because he needs the Dorie spirit. He was talking about how he made the truck parts into a boat to go over that river peninsula thing, so to get to Laura or June, whatever. And then and John Dorie Sr. basically says he cared about the right things. And I thought that was a very cool way of being the spine of this episode, because for a little while John Dorie Sr. didn't know what the right things were. He knew, generally speaking, it's all about Baby Mo. It's all about Baby Mo. But like he didn't know exactly where Baby Mo would end up. But I just thought it was kind of a good caption for this episode. He cared about the right things. How to get to that right thing is a whole other story. Do we plant evidence? Or he does all the things in this episode, whether right or wrong, bad or good. But then he finally decides, let's try for once. No, I'm kidding. But let's try doing the right thing for the right reasons and seeing how that works out. And it does. It was scary as fuck. Because like I said, you had the problem with the guts. You had the problem with the song. And I had a problem with doing the thing to begin with. I was just like, don't do it. Nobody on any of these shows would have done it. It's too dangerous. Stop doing it. Don't do it. Don't go out there. He does it. And then it makes me have a better appreciation for what he actually does. He didn't make it through, obviously. And, we send him off to the sunset like a true cowboy getting eaten by walkers.
He and John walking off in the sunset together on a cloud.
Sonny boy. He and his Sonny boy.
Reunited at last.
Reunited in heaven.
That's something.
The angel John Dorie Jr. was lonely, too. So he said, hey, Dad, why don't you come up here, play ball with me? Don't cry. Don't laugh.
What should we do?
You made it.
I don't know.
And John Jr. said, "What?" And John Jr. said, "What the hell are you wearing?"
There's no baseball in heaven.
There's no dying in baseball.
So hockey.
I'm sure there's been dying in hockey. There has to have been.
You know what? We really need to talk about Wes. What is your feeling on Wes at the moment? With everything he said, all his lapdogginess, trying to do the things for Victor.
I think it's too early to talk about Wes.
That's what I'm afraid you would say. How does it make you feel to see him with Victor, though, in this moment? Initial gut reaction, what do you think is going through his mind? Or how does it feel to see him, Victor's lapdog?
I feel like he's playing Victor. Like, he's just playing like he wants to be his friend. And he's on his side. Because he has to have seen in the short time he's there that being Victor's second in command is not a
place you want to be. But now
he's not a super permanent job.
But he wants that. He's vying for that position. What do you think about me taking on that role?
Well, who is there for him to vie with? Everybody's dead.
Guys, you know what? That should be Morgan's strategy, right? It's like, no, I don't have to step foot in this thing. You're just going to throw off everybody except for maybe Wes. And Wes is going to be like, I'm the last one here. I'm going to be the next one thrown off the roof. It's just like, but Victor's going to have to do it himself. Wes, yeet yourself.
Do you think Wes is feeling like he deserves the punishment? Because he didn't get the answers he wanted about his brother, and now he's feeling like he never will, and so now he's feeling upset, and he can't justify his actions, and maybe he's at the tower to punish himself. Maybe he thinks he deserves yeeting.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to go that far. So you took what I said about this is hell and we're all devils to the next level. Like, okay, I don't care if he eats me off the roof, if it comes to it.
Like Sharon said, maybe while he's there, he's going to try and fuck as much shit up as possible while knowing I could bite it at any day, anytime.
Damage from the inside.
The obvious question or obvious answer somebody could come up with, and which I think a lot of people think, is that like Wes is there to, I think, I don't know if we ended up saying this in last episode, but he could be there to make sure Morgan wins or make sure that Morgan never has to step foot in that tower because Wes will handle it. Like, I don't want Daniel anywhere near this tower because that's what they're going to do. But if I take Victor out, or if I make sure Victor doesn't hurt anybody else, or if I influence Victor in such a way that he can't hurt anybody else, Morgan won't need to come in. I could call him on the radio and say, hey, I've got the Victor situation under control. You don't have to send Daniel. People don't have to be people. Maybe that could be the answer.
Okay. I like that. I like that. If he steps in and does what needs to be done, then Daniel doesn't need to be tortured. Right. I like that. I do. I like that.
So he puts his body on the line instead of making Daniel. You're like, everybody push Daniel into the tower because it's obviously good for him.
Yeah.
No.
And we were all asking, like, why go to the tower? Yeah. I could see that being his motivation.
You know who we
like,
have to credit for that? We have to credit Walani on Instagram, because she kind of suggested that Will is like he's putting himself in the position of being like a sleeper guy. Like, okay, I can take care of this. I used her idea to form that opinion.
Nice. Good job, Walani.
Yeah. But I think rather it's like him putting his body on the line instead of making Daniel go on the line. I'm putting myself so he doesn't have to go through it.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
That feels good to me. I like it. And it means Wes is still a good guy at heart, that he's not turned to a shitbag.
Yeah, or that he doesn't feel like he is a shitbag, so he has to do this thing, or he has to join the demons in hell that he is.
Except I don't think he's a shitbag for jumping shit.
Nobody thinks
Especially
that.
when he saw
No.
when he saw Lucy trick Daniel.
He felt revolted, but I think he felt like, listen, I'm going to live my truth, and if I live my truth, I'd rather be living than die.
Yeah. Well, I was saying he's not a shitbag because when he first went there, like some of the things I was thinking, like, is he going to join Victor? Is he going to start fighting against our group, making him a shitbag? But I don't see it going that way now.
No, I really think he's a sleeper.
I hope so. That's what I want to.
But
that's what I want to believe.
Wouldn't it be fun if he's not? Wouldn't it be fun if he really turned to Victor's side? I like it when they throw the curveballs at us.
Nope. I like my good guys to be good.
I was thinking that as well, because it could go either way, and I'd actually be fine either way, to be perfectly frank. Just on a story level.
The writers are like, hey, we're going to make him think that Wes is going to... The audience is automatically going to think Wes is a sleeper. Let's make him not one.
Yeah. I'm all for that, yeah. But it could be either. It could be... This is something nobody thought of. We always thought Howard was going to be the one to yeet Victor off the roof until... But then what if Wes is really just himself? Like the unassuming Wes is trying to vie for power. We're all in hell, and we are all devils, so I might as well be the top devil. Because fuck it. Fuck it, guys. I would be a better leader than Victor anyway. At least I could maybe run this place. Yeah, Wes, if I'm Wes.
You think Wes sees himself as a leader, though?
Well, we don't know what he thinks, but like, what if? Like, we wouldn't see that coming, in essence.
Oh, definitely not. I don't see Wes as a leader.
Yeah.
So I would not see that coming.
His criteria would be a little different than Victor's. Are you people as people? No?
Do you
Okay,
suck?
come on in.
Okay.
Do you suck? Did you kill a family member? Oh, I don't know. Maybe
How
you
many
don't sound
people
good.
have you killed?
Right. Were they your brother?
Yeah. Was it your brother?
Were they my brother?
Okay, you can come in.
Daniel? Anyway, whatever. Hang up. Just live alone in the tower, Wes. Wouldn't that be something? Wes just uses it for himself and brings it down. Okay, sorry, I'm going a little too far. Anyway, the reason why we're going out there is because even if we think of all the reasons why he could be doing this, like, we're still in that mystery box of like, we really don't know. We're assuming, but we really don't know what his intentions are with the tower. And I like it. I don't like it.
I'm nervous.
I don't like it, but I like it. Right? Like you, I'm like, oh, Wes, what are you doing? You're a good guy.
I'm nervous at this point. It's like, I have no idea what direction they're going to go. I feel like any theory we come up with is going to be like the opposite of what they end up doing. Honestly, losing Howard, I don't even know what to think anymore. My brain is just mush after that.
Next week on Fear, Victor hires Kim Wexler
to defend him in court against
him.
war crimes.
Kim's going to have a very stern talk with Morgan.
What, Morgan?
Oh my God, I would pay so much money to see that.
But guess who defends Morgan?
You need to get your shit in order.
Yeah, but what if Morgan? What if Morgan hires Saul Goodman? Oh.
Ooh, Wexler versus Goodman all over again.
Wexler v. Goodman. Yeah, Kim is winning that one. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Kim always wins. Let's be honest. Kim always wins.
What if that is the scenario, though? What if they do pit them? Sorry, we're talking about Breaking Bad now.
Crossing universes.
Yeah.
AMC is the one that chose to put them on at the same time, so blame them.
My brain is all mush.
Plus, they put the blue meth in Merle's drug bag, so
It's their fault.
They also named the guy that was supposed to take the charger back on Breaking Bad, Glenn.
And then they gave us Arno and Arlo, and it's the same actor. They've done all of this.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's all their fault.
We know what Nabila was doing before the apocalypse too. Now
Howard was a lawyer. Howard was a Fed in Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Howard was
the actor who plays Howard?
He was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he from Texas?
No, he was.
Would've been
He was
funnier.
the Fed one of the Feds that was after Mike
I see.
in the episode where Mike was about his son. 105.
Omid Abtahi. Nice. Making some tracks in the Arlo Howard. Was his name on the show Howlard?
I do not remember. I'm not even sure they gave him one.
Agent
Fed
number 2.
one.
Yeah.
It was Loward instead.
Loward. Loward. Or Noward.
Howard and Hayward.
Oh, okay.
that's
Hayward
the
would have been
last
yeah, that's a better name. See, Rachel, always
Howard
saving our
and
asses.
Howard and Hayward.
I have now that we're laughing, I have the dumbest thing that maybe you guys heard as well. Okay, when John Dorie Sr. is handing off Baby Mo to Morgan, I'm wearing headphones. 2 separate times I hear over Baby Mo's cries, I hear the word, a man saying help, but it's really the baby crying. And this is like, I know this is one of those things.
Is this like...
Yeah.
I almost said Yanni. Is that what it was?
What?
Yanni.
No.
Oh, forget what I said.
Wait, how did Yanni come into the conversation? Do you remember when people would argue over that word and they would say that it was this word? But
Yes.
no, it was this one.
I know
is
what you're
that?
talking about now. Yeah, I forget.
Yeah.
There's a term for it too. When you hear Yanni versus something else.
But is it Yanni or
Yeah.
am I just saying Yanni? Because I just talked to Rachel about the musician
We
Yanni.
were just talking about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yanni or Laurel.
Laurel. That's
Yanni or Laurel.
Yes.
Silas did show that to me a few weeks ago. I feel like,
It
or
was
something
like the blue
similar.
dress or yellow dress.
Yes.
Except with
Yeah.
sound.
This was
Now
like-
this comes
Go
up.
with sound.
This was like a couple years ago.
It all has to do with frequencies and sound, basically. So when I was hearing Baby Mo cry, in that cry, it actually jumped out at me. And maybe see, I'm on a panel with all women, and I heard this. I heard help twice from Baby Mo's cries because it was in a lower frequency, a man's register. And so it's kind of interesting. If you hear, I'm just going to say, if you hear, listen closely, but you may not be able to because the phenomenology is women can often hear sounds that register in the higher frequencies and men can often hear sounds in the lower registers. We tend to hear or pick up those frequencies a lot better. Age has a lot to do with it too. If you're older, you will hear some frequencies versus other frequencies. So some will hear Yanni and some will hear Laurel. And so guys in the audience, if you hear what I'm hearing, you heard the word, somebody yelled the word, help twice.
I need somebody.
Hit me up. No, not like that. But in 2 separate frames, in 2 separate instances, I heard that. And I'm like, what is going on in my ears? Who's yelling help? Is that Baby Mo's cries? It sounds like a 30-year-old smoker. That's what it sounded like.
Okay. So to like ask a really stupid question, it wasn't in the song or anything, right?
No.
It wasn't part of the recording that was playing.
It was just random to me. And then
Okay.
At the end of the day, I attributed it to Baby Mo's cries. Like her cries were so often and so frequent that like her voice did something in the frequency, like registered in some fashion that made me hear the word help or somebody, a man saying help. It was very weird. It was jarring because it happened twice. I'm like, I'm not crazy. I heard help twice. And
What if we find out Morgan is carrying a walkie and you actually did hear it?
Oh God. Because here I am thinking like somebody's fucking with me. Like somebody on the show is like, let's just insert help twice and like see what schmuck hears it. Right? Like
I'm gonna
we're
rewatch
gonna
the
say
end of
nothing
it.
about
I'm
it.
gonna rewatch the end of it today on the computer so I can get it through the headphones.
Yeah, listen with headphones.
Get it in the ears.
You may or may not hear it. You may or may not hear it. It's very interesting. I feel
wanna
bad
listen
bringing
for
it
it
up because it means nothing to the show, has no substance, but I can't be crazy. I don't want to be crazy.
I mean, unless we find out Morgan has a walkie on him and somebody was calling through at that moment.
And the problem is they didn't react to it. So like, oh my God, they're trying to get a fast one on me.
Maybe this is
going
like
on.
Subliminal Man. On the old Saturday Night Live, Subliminal Man.
Oh my goodness.
It's someone on the Fear team that's like, help me.
It sounded like a scream. It sounded like somebody like yelling for help, like a man yelling for help. Help!
It's like an editor. He's like, help.
They fired all the.
Dave.
It's me. I'm yelling for
That
help.
was just your own brain. It was your own brain echoing inside your head. Hey!
I think I've had to do it for days. What? Do you need me? How can I help you? What am I? It's the person asking for help is you, Dave. What do you mean, Dave? Oh no, he's talking to himself.
What are you doing, Dave?
What do you think about John Dorie finally saying to June, at the end of the day, you help me see. It's never too late. You couldn't be faulted for when John Dorie Jr. says it's never too late to everybody, and then he finds out that it was for him, you know, and then you finally get this return here of like, it's never too late.
My brain kind of broke in this moment because I was trying to remember when John's on the door, doesn't he say there's still time? Isn't that the line?
He says it's not too late. He doesn't say there's more time. He says it's not too late. It's never too late.
It's not too late.
It's
Okay,
never
so
too
I
late.
was trying to associate it with that scene, but the lines weren't matching up for me. So my brain broke and I couldn't really focus on the sentimental moment because I was trying
heard
so
help.
hard to
Sorry.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I heard help right then, so I couldn't hear the line. It did the thing though. Like it worked. It still worked because he delivered the line and then I immediately went to John right after he got shot, and like that's where my brain took me. But then I was like, but that's not what he said. That's not this. It wasn't the same line.
It was
kind
yeah.
of missed it. I mean, it was similar, but it wasn't the same line. I mean, it was the same meaning, but it wasn't the same line. So my brain was like,
Well, I
like,
think you
was
also have to
taken out of
remember,
the
like,
moment.
John, even that line from John Dorie Jr. was quoting his father. It's never too late, essentially. So it's kind of cool to see him do that, and the sentiment's there too. You know.
Yeah. And like I said, it still worked. I mean, the scene still took me to where I needed to go.
Still made me cry.
I wanted to cry, but I didn't.
I didn't either.
I
didn't in the
was
moment. I mean, obviously, I've like teared up pretty hard both
the
times
second
I
watch
talked
was
about
it.
But I didn't in the moment.
I didn't say I wanted to cry.
I felt it, and it felt sad, but it was also like the happiness that it was resolved and that it came full circle and that he did the right thing. And so even though it was like a really sad moment, there was some joy there.
That's what I was saying. Like it in some ways, like it kind of vindicated John Jr. It had always bothered me that like, but John, you figured it out too late, or it was too late for you. And I get it. It didn't work out for John Jr., but it did work out for John Sr. He was trying to do the right thing with Dakota, I think, but it didn't work out for him. But for John Sr., I mean, equally, yes, in some way, it worked out for him in the sense that he was protecting this legacy of a child. Like, you know, this child can go on without having her brain twisted by a madman, essentially. And so that worked. I think he was trying with Dakota. It didn't quite work, but he would have not liked himself for not trying to help Dakota, I think. Just because you don't live past that moment. I mean, there's something interesting about these two Dories trying to do the right thing and then dying for it heroically. I just brought myself down. Doesn't that feel a little bit like it sucks that they both had to die in a bad way? And like, why do these Dories have to die on this show? Why couldn't we have one angel baby Dorie on this show?
Well,
I mean, I can tell
enter
you
Dawn. Dorie.
one reason. Dawn. Dawn and Dawn.
Dawn and Dawn. Dawn and Dawn.
One of my friends brought this up a while ago. Do you think that the John Sr. storyline was originally supposed to be John Jr.? And they had written out this entire storyline for John Jr., and then when Garrett decided to leave, they were like, oh shit, what do we do now? Hey, let's bring his dad, John Sr., and he can just jump into the slot that John Jr. was supposed to fill.
That's a bit complicated because then Ginny would have had to pull one over on him twice by way of Victor, let's say. That's what I'm saying. Although they could have obviously rerouted the story to make it work, so you could do something like that again, but I think this only works if John Dorie is gone, though. I see what you're saying, obviously. The path could still be written in the same way. I don't think they would have had the same story, though. Could it have been better, though? I don't know. Because I think after season 5, there was a concerted effort, obviously, to bring in these end is the beginning people, which could mean that the nuke was always going to be something that was in play. So did they think that far ahead? I'm not sure. But you bring up a good point. I'll say that much.
It was just something interesting. I mean, because I can see John Jr.'s path going the same Senior's did very easily.
To think of it that way almost negates all of the good that we just got. Because I liked that this complicated relationship that he had with his dad that had played a part in like all of his story had come back. I liked that.
Or most of it.
Yeah.
Most of his story. Yeah.
I mean, not every single part, but you know.
You're right.
It was woven all through.
Let's take another minute on this because I almost think that Garrett maybe have wanted to leave right after season 5, literally. So obviously they bring up the concept of his father in season 6, I'm going to say. And so they built the story around him leaving. So
Yeah.
as much as you want to say they could have had this whole story with John Dorie, it allowed them to actually do this mirror of season 6 in season 7 with a different actor. In my mind, you couldn't do that with the same person. It would have to be a different person. It'd have to be a different Dorie. Like, because you can't do the same thing twice and accept us to fall for it. But if you sub in a different guy, well, then we're playing with themes like a dark mirror of the last season. Because obviously Victor is repeating tactics used by the End is the Beginning people. Ginny, a little cult-like behavior, a little controlling communications, as cults do. Then you have the dark mirror of him mirroring Ginny's Rangers, the holding.
Killing people horrifically.
Yeah, in public displays. So it wouldn't work if it was John Dorie, I don't think. You can't fall for the same trick twice. These 2 seasons would have had to have been with the intention of him leaving, period. But it's fun to play with. It does break our brain just a bit.
Jenna said she knew from 2019 in September that was the way it was going to go. And that was right after
season 5
ended.
yeah.
So I'm sure it was on the table
Just after it filmed, which is way earlier.
Right.
Yeah. Which, okay. So in real terms, this is good to remind the audience of when the pandemic struck. They were showing us previews just during that period of time where like February, like March, April, where they were thinking, okay, we're coming out in April again to bring the first part of season 6. You know, they're showing us previews. We broke down that trailer initially over the pandemic. And then they said, okay, no, we're delaying that until fall. And so Garrett's had all this time just after filming season 5, a lot of time, just after filming season 5 to say, hey, maybe we should go. Maybe I should go. And so they built the story. That whole season 6 was him getting ready to go, essentially. I feel like I need to cap this off by saying, because with all the things that we've said about this episode, I really did end up liking this episode. I like the fact that he didn't know where